A call to art. A call to art. I am the product of a preacher and a writer, so this is what you get. A call to art, the gathering. Draw near those in need. Draw close those with ears to hear. Draw near those with eyes to see. Draw close. Those wanting to be closer, be vulnerable. Breathe deeply. Feel the moment to be valued, building trust. This day of owing, a day of correction, paying back what we used, that fourth of a day. Blinking in tandem, fingers weaving, healing is loading. This is the last day of February, leap year, and we are leaping. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Shayella Rowe. I'm the manager of Arts Therapies and Wellbeing at CHI Memorial Hospital. And I just want to give a big, ginormous thank you to you for showing up tonight, for bringing yourself into this space, for inviting yourself to participate in this performance, in this experience tonight where we are contemplating arts, health, and climate justice, and what that means to each of us, and specifically what it means in our communities of color. We have with us tonight Summer Dregs, Erika Roberts, and Novek. I also want to point out that there is a program, which I think many of you have. Mine is on the back of some research that I read in preparation for this event. That's my vibe. And yours may be on the back of cereal boxes, or if you needed a container or a bag or a bowl, it might have been on one of those objects. There's a little QR code on there. That's the important part of this program. So if you use your phone and access that form in there, there's some questions.
Hello, Summer Dregs. I am just going to intro the song we wrote specifically as a reaction to some of these pieces. And some things to keep in mind is what really resonated with me, and I think that part of the reason that Nadira and Erika chose me for this is the music I've been playing is all my music, and I love cycles, and I also love cycles that, I was talking to David about this before, I love when cycles, you think it's a cycle, but then like a couple minutes later, you're like, oh, this is totally different than it was 2 minutes ago. And I like that because I feel like that reflects life, that reflects how, you know, a lot of things in life are, where you think you're going about your business, just doing your things, and then you're like, oh, shoot, I'm a different person. But it's also about how we push in healthy and unhealthy ways against those cycles, and talking about our relationship to, you know, nature and the environment, and how we kind of have to learn to adapt to these cycles, but sometimes when we push against them too hard, it just breaks, and that's kind of another piece of what we're inspired by with these pieces. And again, this one, I couldn't just talk behind the speakers, I don't know if Dear mentioned it, but it's on a cycle. There's a cycle to it that keeps going over and over, except for there's some randomness introduced into this cycle. So you can look at it, and the same thing with this piece over here, you can look at it for as long as you want, and it's never going to be exactly the same. So, just things to think about for this piece.
Constantly the shifting constantly. Our surroundings swirling in half circles, deep pendulum with my pen I begin, I must move. Breath, living strokes. Constantly the shifting constantly. Our communities, family, the groupings, the water, bad injections, poisonous currency, invested disruptions, beautiful skies, heated rock, constantly the shifting constantly. Enlightened in light, no darkness, red light, stop. Nature moves, our society boxes in while the land is pushed away. The cells in our bodies renewing, rebuilding. Forces that drive these changes are natural. A circular melody, days, the years, the eons, adjusted cycles, seasons of weather, seasons of life. Counterclockwise, the hula hoops roll, ticking and talking, meditation, mental blocking, constantly the shifting constantly, constantly the shifting constantly, constantly shifting, constantly shifting.
Novek, Erika Roberts, Carl, Summer Dregs, you're amazing. All right. So now it's your turn. We're going to have a few moments for you to give feedback about your experience in this space and to contemplate some of the questions. If you go to that QR code that's on your program and look at the form, I want to orient you to a few things. There are questions in that form, but also at the bottom, there's a link to the song that you just heard, a studio recording that Erika and Carl did. So you all have access to that. It's free. It's available to you to use as a meditation, to use to inspire making your own art in response to that song, whether it's dance or visual or poetry or another song. All of those options are available to you. So I want to ask just generally on this topic, if anybody feels brave to answer, what is your relationship to the environment or the climate and health? Anyone feel brave to ask or to answer? Odd. In awe of this exhibit or the environment in general? My question was general, so it's okay if I've confused people. Yeah.
I feel like I have to protect it for my children.
Can you say that again?
I feel like I have to protect it.
You have to protect your environment. Feel like you have to protect it. For your child. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? So we've got awe and oddness and protection. Guilt. You feel guilt about the environment. I feel guilty about the environment when we were making the programs and I was cutting up all the cereal boxes and thinking about all the cereal boxes that didn't get used for another purpose. Yeah. Thank you. So it's kind of a broad and open question. What's your relationship to climate and the environment? But I'm wondering if there was anything in Erika's poem, in the music, in the artwork in particular, that strikes you about the climate and maybe how it impacts health and well-being in our community. And we can think about just Chattanooga. We don't have to think about the whole world. We can just think about our relationship to the climate around us and all the things that influence the climate around us and how that might impact our health.
I wrote the piece specifically. It was based off some things that Carl pulled out, but I wrote it from a space of living in a community that is changing directly. The community that I live in, it's changing. Whether or not you call it, I like to call it in this case revitalization. In some places it would be the big G word, but those changes. And so that was part of my, the movement part. But then it feels like there's a dichotomy, an oxymoron with the shifting constantly, right? But we have to support that change as we're moving to build better legacies maybe for children, protecting our environment for that purpose, that moving part. That was part of the reason that I was beginning when I was writing that. And then the ironic side that we are on the last day of February on Leap Day, so we owe time. So today is a maintaining of this shift, because if we didn't have this day, then the normal shift seasons would be all jacked up. So there's this weird maintaining of this ultimate shift that I was feeling as I was writing this, if that makes sense. And then hearing it in conjunction with Carl's music, if you get a chance, I encourage you to go back and listen to it again, and you can almost ride the shifts in the music. It moves you into like these spaces of upheaval, but then it also slides you into this plateau of, okay, I got it. And that was kind of the purpose. And then it being inspired by what we see in here, because if you just sit here for a second and just be quiet, there's a shifting in here. There's Nina. There's the flickering of the lights. There's this shift. Couple it with our breathing, our inhales and exhales. That's a whole shift. We are now part of that shift. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Erika. And that brings me to an important question, which is in here, asking, was there anything in Erika's words, in the poem, in the music, in the artwork that felt foreign and different to you, new, maybe made you think in a different way? Anybody had a new moment, a moment of surprise or aha? Yeah?
The word breath really stood out to me. There was a moment in the dance too of a pantomime of almost catching breath, like breath, kind of laboriously taking a breath. I think about James Nestor's book called Breath, and he describes much more beautifully than I'm about to how when we inhale, we're taking in not just molecules of oxygen, but particles from our environment. There might even be little bits of sand from the Sahara that have come all the way over the Atlantic. And so there's this real intimacy to breath. You're sort of taking in your environment and then expelling some facet of yourself, and then
Very communal.
very communal, very much so. And so we're in a city that had horrible air quality, which has terrible health effects. Now we're in a city that's becoming greener and becoming cleaner, but still there's a lot of work to be done, to...
And who is it becoming greener and cleaner for, right? Are there some who are not experiencing greener and cleaner in their air quality?
Exactly, yeah, to those who have much more will be given, and to those who have nothing, directly, that's true. So that was something that stood out to me.
And if we could, in a moment, on that note about breath, let's all together take in a breath, if you don't mind. We'll take in a big, deep, fill your belly up, and let that air out. Was there a struggle? Was it easy? Did it feel cleansing? Did it stagger? And all of these questions that ask us, what then did we connect to? What was not different, but what was familiar to us in the words that Erika shared, in her poem, in her talk afterwards, in the artwork, in the music? What felt familiar and similar to an experience that you might have?
Something that came up for me is I'm kind of like a creature of habit a lot of times, so I tend to walk around familiar places. But even though it's the same place, since it's nature, there's always something changing about it. And so it reminds me of, I heard from an indigenous person that we kind of like lost touch, having a relationship with the environment around us. And so just like going to the same place over and over again and see how it changes throughout the years, and it becomes like a kind of an intimacy with just the natural world around me. And so that was something that I picked up as familiar to me.
Connecting to experiencing that change and being mindful of that change around you, noticing. Yeah, yeah. And I'm wondering if anyone else has that experience and they actually are mindful of not just the change happening around you, but the change that you're affecting around you. Yes.
I was thinking earlier when I was looking at the Google images, it made me feel a bit ill at ease or like I don't have a lot of control. And then in here, listening, I felt very calm and present and in my body. And I think that's a familiar juxtaposition of how I feel about the climate crisis in general. Like I want to believe I have a lot of agency to make choices and alter my own kind of consumerism, but then at the same time feeling super overwhelmed and like I don't have any agency to make a difference. So I just thought it was interesting how kind of experiencing one piece of the exhibit to another brought up that same sort of push-pull that I think about this issue in general.
Thank you for that. That was a gift. What was your name?
My name's Allie.
Allie, thank you for that. I appreciate you calling that out and the impact of what we have access to in terms of what's influencing us, what's impacting, in our visual sphere, in our physical sphere, in the sound sphere, all of those things, what we touch, breathe, taste, see, hear, all of those things that affect our senses have an impact on how we feel about our environment around us. And maybe even the changes happening in the climate as well. Yes.
Yeah, so I felt the beauty of the undulating life pulsating from all the dance and the words and the music, all life, lots of it, all there. And in the background was this automobile image, silent, which is so unusual, such a contrast, such a beautiful. That actually being beautiful, it's silent, it's not affecting us, it's just quiet, which is unusual for automobiles.
What else? What else is coming up for you all in response to anything in the performance or what you've experienced tonight? Yeah.
It makes me think about like what the smallest unit of health is.
Ooh, the smallest unit of health. What is the smallest unit of health?
Mercy, that might be a poem later. Sigh. Woo.
Like, I feel like what that brings up to me is how I write a lot of times, and I hope you can hear this in my music, but my music is made up of a lot of little pieces that kind of add up to something larger. That's usually what I'm trying to do, is I'm taking all these like little sounds that you're not really interacting with these little sounds. Like what you should be hearing is the whole like mushy thing, like the whole like you're saying kind of pulsating, kind of like undulating sounds. Just because that's how nature is. That's how we are. We're made up of like all sorts of different microbes and like things. But what's really important is like the big thing, like the person, right, or the community, or the like, but you don't have the community without all these little pieces working together and doing their kind of
That's right.
things.
All of the pieces of the community working together. And sometimes they're working together to do harm, right?
I was going to say, they'd be together on that.
I just
for real,
want to
though.
call that out. When we're talking about the smallest particles, I'm not a biomedical scientist or a physician, okay? I'm just going to say that straight up, but there is some tacit knowledge that I know from having a body that interacts with the real world and then going to the doctor and understanding that, like, when I take a deep breath in Chattanooga in the spring, I am breathing in the DNA of a lot of things in our environment. And some of those things, like the DNA of my cat's saliva, or the DNA of the maple tree that's outside my window, is actually working against me, right? Anybody agree? Yeah.
For sure.
Right. And I think being able to recognize and acknowledge that when it's happening, understanding when my DNA is working against someone else or when my DNA is actually supporting the life of someone else and vice versa. I think that's what we're talking about, right? That's what we're dancing about, Novek? Yeah. All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Thank you.